I usually try to talk about mental health and or communication, and all of it really is rooted in communication, including today's topic, carnivore diet. And even in this moment, I'm in the last hour, half hour, I better started accepting that selling anything like an idea like carnivore really isn't about selling the emotion, because people don't make logical choices, people make emotional choices. But what that really means is rooted in the survival brain. So this is my salad, a mixture of prepackaged deli meat. So it's not even about selling to the emotion. I've been talking about this for months, and or years, and so and a lot of people say it's about selling. It's not selling to the logical brain that processes information. It's really about selling to the emotional brain, because people don't make logical choices. But only this morning I'm now better understanding that really means selling to the survival brain. So survival brain. Why eat meat? Why survive? Why eat anything different? Why choose to make ourselves sick? Why choose to cure many Western diseases? How long have we been doing this? Why have we been doing this? Is it wrong to eat meat, plants? How much can we eat? Is it crazy to say that we should accept that almost anything is acceptable in moderation? How much moderation? Do we really know? Or are we choosing to ignore different information? Are we choosing to ignore the survival brain so that we can do what we think is right? Are we just accepting what others are saying? Rooted in our survival brain, because it's just easier. Our survival brain is trying to save us from wasting our time, energy, resources. Our survival brain also allows us to choose to make the hard, long, difficult choices to make sure that we have the best information, specifically to avoid wasting our time, energy, resources. So seems we might be in a culture that's quick to accept is it crazy to assume that we're in a culture where we tend to choose to make the quick giveaway gut, accepting our gut feeling. So I'm packing my lunch to go here. All meat. I should say all meat with a treat. This is maple glazed, and that's full of sugar. But where do we draw the line? These salmon maple glazed. What if we now have scientific evidence that it's best to avoid plant-based diets? Sharing the problem, one problem seems sharing factual based evidence isn't enough. Specifically because there's evidence, a new emerging evidence constantly coming out, that more and more evidence that we do not make logical choices. Choosing to make logical choices is a choice, though simultaneously I also have to choose to speak to your survival brain to help you make your emotional choices. Why? And it seems maybe I should rethink the logic and say that instead of helping you make the logical choice, what I maybe could do is talk to your survival brain to help you make a survival choice. And I don't know how to do that, and I don't know how to help you make the emotional choice. The logical choice seems we've been practicing as a society, though I'm not sure of any examples where we practice speaking to the emotional side of the brain and or the survival brain. Though Chris does a good job explaining how to talk to the survival brain, and I think I'm going to try to transition towards that. I've been practicing that. We all have for years. In some aspects, some theories have some of us talking to the survival brain. In business, one example is where I was trained to when I'm cold calling somebody is to ask a no-oriented question with, is this a bad time to talk? Now, there was conflicting information, and so as a layperson, as a nobody, I didn't know what to think because I had mixed information, because in business, often we're taught to get the other person to say yes. And so in cold calling, we're told to get people to say no. And getting a sale, we're told to get them to say yes. So I wasn't convinced of either practice until I started studying Chris Voss. And so Carnivore Diet. I'm gonna try to practice talking to your survival brain to help you choose to, for you to make your own choice about what survival means to your diet, what your diet means to your survival. So I'm gonna try to tell you a story about my own experience where as my health deteriorated, I would as my health deteriorated, I could no longer function, do otherwise simple tasks. Like including cooking. And there's a couple examples that, so I remember now. A friend the other day said, like a child in daycare or in kindergarten might need Velcro shoes sometimes. As a 44-year-old, I had the functioning capacity of a 2-year-old. I needed Velcro shoes, but I didn't know how to explain that at that time. And doing the best I could, studying the best information, I started recovering. Though at that time, what I knew and I said was I needed to learn to cook. But I also you and said I needed, and I pleaded with people because I couldn't buy enough cup of soup. So I needed help buying the cup of soup. You know, the instant pour hot water, ready. Because I'd boil pots dry. I couldn't remember what I was doing from 1 minute. I didn't know what I was doing from 1 minute to the next. And so I couldn't even make Mr. Noodles half the time. On my worst days, I often boiled pots dry, so I couldn't even cook. So the best I could cook, the easiest I could cook, was noodles. But more than that, I knew I needed less stress. And I knew, and I said I needed Mr. Noodles. So sometimes I could afford to eat out or order in. And I often so I usually ate Mr. Noodles, and a lot of it. And first thing I noticed is I got skin tags, and then I got skin tags and other health problems, and then by August 23, I almost lost my legs, amputated to diabetes, and so I got on Carnivore and the first thing I noticed was my skin tags went away, and then my legs started getting better, and then like everyone said, but that still didn't really convince me until February 24, 2024 February, I figured it was time to cheat my diet, and I had spaghetti and garlic bread. Now, spaghetti and garlic bread. I almost immediately got joint pain. And and I thought, I wondered, well, my first thought was, seems like there's some truth to the theory that carnivore cures joint pain. But I still wasn't convinced. I only felt joint pain, and I had not noticed that the joint pain had gone away, though after eating the spaghetti. And what I did notice is the joint pain starting as soon as I ate the spaghetti and garlic bread. And like I said, I still wasn't fully convinced until about 4 days later the joint pain went away. Then I was like, I accepted it. Even though I'd talked about it, my words, actions, beliefs hadn't fully aligned. Until until 4 days of detoxing, 4 days of no carbs, and joint pain went away. Four days of detoxing and the joint pain went away. I became a believer, but I still, even with that, emotionally I wasn't strong enough to go cold turkey. And so I continued to cheat, and I still do. It's my salad. So you don't want to give up your reason we don't want to give up our habits is exactly because our habits have kept us alive. Good or bad or ugly. Even bad habits, even habits we know are counterproductive, it still keeps us our sanity. That's why I couldn't go cold turkey. I needed those rewards. Remember, former spy Andrew Bustamante talks about the spy motivators. Doesn't have to be coercion, fear. Peterson talks about how fear is a great motivator. The spy motivators discovered by a spy many years ago. Took many years to evolve into what it is today. Rewards, ideology, coercion, and ego. Fear or coercion is only one of them. So, and besides the spy motivators, race motivators, rewards, ideology, coercion, and ego. Coercion is only one of them, or coercion or fear is only one of them. And I had to reward myself with sugar. I drank, I think it was iced tea for almost a year after I started the Carnivore Diet, just so that I could reward myself with just a little bit of peace of mind to stick to my habits. Because I had a lifelong habit of drinking iced tea, and it was no different than having a cigarette. It was just relaxing. I never smoked, but it's that kind of effect. So I couldn't go cold turkey, but I rewarded myself to wean myself off the sugar diet. Now there's good evidence one thing I learned in the military was to look for the best information, and there's evidence that suggests that we are supposed to eat sugary plants, and that it's so important to have a sugar eye that we can smell which plants produce more sugar, or carbs, whatever you want to call it. And carbs turn to sugar, so let's call it what it is, sugar. So, what happens to farmers? Farmers have to survive too. They can't just stop producing crops. Well, the great thing about sugar plants is the best sugar plants make the best alcohol or gasoline. So farmers could just make more sugar plants, just grow more sugar plants to turn to alcohol to burn as gasoline. Seed oils, like canola, well, during World War II, canola, it used to be called rapeseed. Rapeseed was used as engine oil, gear oil, all of that. So, so farmers could continue to produce canola, rapeseed, and And we could start putting canola-based oils in our cars and gears, and like it was 50 or more years ago. Why canola? Why rapeseed? Because Canadians, the word canola comes from, is it 3 or 4 words? Follow along with me, comment down below. The first part of canola, if you break it down into its parts, is the first is can or Canadian. Canola stands for Canadian oil, low acid. Canadian oil, low acid. I think that's 4 parts. Can, oil, low acid, 4 parts. Canola. So only after Canadians invented a process to remove the high acidity out of the rapeseed could we then turn gear oil, motor oil, into edible oil, cooking oil, edible cooking oil. Only after Canadians invented a process to remove the acid. So farmers can survive. If you're worried about farmers, they can continue to grow canola, extract the rapeseed, and instead of, so there might be a few jobs lost where the plants that refine the rapeseed into canola oil, those plants might shut down, and if anybody's smart about it, those plants could be retooled to make alcohol. I'm gonna save my maple salmon for supper. Feels like I should get a case for my utensils. I'm gonna continue my walk. My other phone died, so I don't know exactly what time it is. I'm gonna try to be early to meet with a new friend. Now my carnivore story survival story continues where February 2024, when I had pasta and garlic bread and got joint pain, detoxed of carbs, sugar for 4 days before the joint pain went away. So today I still cheat. I still have a lot of carbs, sugar, and today I better understand that if I have milk, beans like and chili, milk, beans, beer, they give me joint pain, and so does pasta. Now if I eat, the other day I discovered something I ate made me fart. I still don't know what that is. So I get different symptoms with different things I eat. Things like pizza, even the pizza toppings, so just the pizza crust, as well as the pizza toppings. Well, let's break it down this way. 24 spring, summer 24. If I had 2 pieces of pizza, I'd get 1 blister. But the more and longer I cut more and more sugar, the sooner I would react to different sugars. So, spring 25, if I had 1 slice of pizza, I'd get a blister on my left foot usually. Then I had learned about wrapping pizza toppings from Costco, taking the crust off, wrapping the pizza toppings around the hot dog wiener. So it was just the pizza toppings on the wiener to make a carnivore hot dog, and that would be okay. And then eventually had pizza toppings by themselves, and at one point I noticed that if I had a half a pizza, no crust, the toppings from a half a pizza, there's still enough sugar in the sauce and everything else, and in the cheese, that I'd get 2 blisters from that. And it's also important, like, to understand or consider that by that point I'd eaten less and less carbs, longer stretches between my rewards. So as it continues, I have my rewards are further and farther apart, and when I do reward myself, I have symptoms like farting, joint pain. So if I have a beer, most people consider that they might get drunk. If I have a beer, I know that I might get drunk and I'll have joint pain. It's just part of having a beer. So for me, I don't doubt for 1 second that people react differently to different sugars. And with different symptoms. The other thing that gives me blisters is pasta. So it's milk, beer, and beans give me joint pain. Beans give me bad joint pain in a hurry, though it's short lasting. Pasta gives me joint pain, but it's long lasting. And the things that give me blisters are pizzas or pizza crust, breads. Pasta gives me blisters. There's other things too, but I don't remember them all. I just some of the quick ones top of mind. Looking for parking for my friend. I'm gonna go into Remedy Cafe here in Edmonton. And seems to be some parking behind. So I don't know that I've convinced you to